What's up, everyone, and welcome back. Today is December 5th of 2024. In today's video, we're going to talk about a news story that broke a couple of days ago involving the death of famous rapper Eminem's mother, Debbie Nelson, formerly Debbie Mathers, at the age of 69. And in this video, we will discuss the lunar symbolism and how this all syncs up with the eclipse code. In a video I streamed live yesterday, I talked about the martial law situation in South Korea and how South Korea is an embodiment of the eclipse code and how news stories from that nation always coincide with relevant solar eclipses. Now, December 3rd, when that martial law was enacted, is the same day that we learned about the death of Debbie Nelson. So in this video, we'll be talking about essentially the same riddle and how Eminem's mom has similar numerology connecting to these codes that we'll be looking at. December 3rd, which again was the date of both news stories, was a date with primary numerology of 59. This is achieved by adding all of the digits in the dates together as you would say them out loud. 12 plus 3 plus 20 plus 24. 59 is a significant number to Eminem, whose name in the simple alphabetic order, where each letter is numbered 1 through 26 relative to its position in the alphabet, the rapper's name, Eminem, sums to 59. In an extended method of Gematria, Latin, formerly called Jewish as a misnomer, this is a cipher that I consider to be the most significant in the study, and we will be looking at it at great length today. In Latin Gematria, the word kill also sums to 59. So Debbie passes away at the age of 69, and her death was attributed to lung cancer. And when it comes to cancer, the number 69 is a number we see very frequently. The only sign ruled by the moon on the zodiac is Cancer, and Cancer's astrological symbol closely resembles the number 69 when turned sideways. And just like the story in Korea, we'll talk about how this all syncs up with pi numerology as well. Of course, pi resolves the mathematics of circles. And in the alphabetic order, both circles and eclipse sum to 69. Appropriate, as an eclipse is the intersection of the two largest circles in the sky. So the fact that she was 69 should definitely stand out. Now, in Latin Gematria, the word pi, Pi, sums to 69. In an extended method called squares, where we use the alphabetic order, but every number is squared, multiplied by itself before added to the equation, pi gives us a gematria value of 337. And Deborah died on the 337th day of a leap year. Also notice how her maiden name, Nelson, has triple overlap with the word pi in what we call the base methods of Gematria. These, coupled with ordinal, here we reverse the alphabetic order or simply reduce it in a cipher also called Pythagorean Gematria. We'll also glance at the standard method, which is constructed identically to Latin Gematria, but uses the current 26-letter alphabet instead. So pi, 79, 25, and 29, just like the name Nelson in similar ciphers. So yesterday, if you caught my video, you would have noticed that towards the end, I talked about the number 272. 272 is an important number to the moon. When you divide the diameter of the moon by the diameter of the Earth, you get 0.272 repeating. And these were numbers connected to the South Korean officials that I decoded in yesterday's video. Well, again, this news story dropped on the same exact day. And look how old Eminem was when his mother died. The rapper was exactly 2,720 weeks old. And his mother's name, Debbie Nelson. Amazingly, the name Debbie Nelson sums to 272 in Latin Gematria. Furthermore, with prime numbers, another cipher based on the alphabetic order, the name Mathers on its own also equals 272. And we know this is synced up with the code of the lunar cycles and the brown lunation count. Check out the city where Debbie passed away, St. Joseph, Missouri. When you write out St. Joseph, Missouri, in standard English gematria, it sums to 1261. Well, it just so happens that Debbie passed away during brown lunation number 1261. For viewers who may be new to the channel, every new moon since 1923 has been numbered. So she dies just a few days into lunation 1261, matching the name of the city. On top of that, St. Joseph, Missouri also equals 1,561, whereas her full name, Deborah Ray Nelson, equals 561. Again, these Latin and standard methods, the two main extended ciphers. Another note about this 272. Back in the year 2002, Eminem, who was already a worldwide star at the time, was cemented into the mainstream with the release of the film 8 Mile. And intriguingly, if you measure from the release of that film to the death of his mom, you actually get 272 lunar phases and 27 days. So this probably isn't a coincidence. You know, we're talking about the digits 272 and how it all syncs up with the moon. Well, this all happened 272 lunar phases after the release of 8 Mile. So we'll talk a little bit more about 8 Mile later, but next up I want to focus on the number of the beast, 666. A very important number, particularly in this story. Another major method of gematria based on the alphabetic order is Sumerian, which multiplies every number by 6. 6 is the first perfect number, and the number most closely associated with time, which is, of course, a huge part of this study. So in the Sumerian cipher, her name Debbie Mathers equals 666, also 66 in reduction. Her maiden name Deborah Nelson also sums to both 60 and 66 in reverse reduction. Now, when we take this number to Latin gematria, 666, notice how we get a Latin value of 2,038. And again, as I mentioned yesterday, 238, an important number to the moon, as we find this in the average distance of our satellite from the Earth. Debbie died 238 days after the last time the moon blocked the sun back in April during the Great American Total Solar Eclipse. This same measurement, 238 days, is also 7 months and 24 days. Number of the beast equals 724 in that same Latin method. Also in that cipher, the phrases mathematics of the circle and mathematical perfection each equals 666. And this is going to bring us back to the pi numerology of this story. Next March, on Pi Day, March 14th, or as we write it, 314, here in the United States, we're going to have our first total lunar eclipse in about 2.5 years. This is being called the Pi Day eclipse, and look at the gematria of Pi Day eclipse. Remarkably, it also sums to 666. And not only is this eclipse on Pi Day, but it also happens in the year 25. Well, the word pi equals 25 in ordinal. See how it's the 16th letter plus the 9th letter? In satanic gematria, the phrase eclipse equals 314. And satanic is relevant to this decode, as this method is constructed primarily around the number 666. The phrase circles also appropriately equals 314, and it's 3.14 that resolves the math of circles. Now, in Latin gematria, what do you think the name Mathers sums to? Well, lo and behold, Mathers equals 314. So, as we will see, Debbie Mathers' death is synced up with this Pi Day eclipse. Now, her son Eminem is often referred to as simply M. You know, there aren't many musicians who you can call by just one letter, and people will know who you're talking about. But Eminem is one of those guys. And of course, M is the 13th letter, an important number to the moon, which completes 13 lunar phases every couple of years. The word moon also ends with the 13th letter in reverse, the letter N, 13. And when you write out 13, you get matching 99 gematria with the moon. Now, when Marshall Mathers was born in 1972, look at the Brown lunation number he was born under. 616. Well, this is pretty relevant because in many circles, a lot of religious people actually believe that 616 is the true number of the beast, as revealed in recent manuscripts, Papyrus 115. So let's bring this together. Now, December 2nd of 2024 was a date with reduced numerology of 13. That was the date his mother died. And not only does M equal 13, but the name Eminem also sums to 103 in the reverse alphabetic order. Measuring from the death of his mother to the Pi Day lunar eclipse on 314 gives us a span of 103 days. And wouldn't you know, in reverse reduction, the phrase total lunar eclipse equals 103. With the S exception, ritual human sacrifice, also another 103. Now, Eminem's career has been steeped in the symbolism of death. Back in the year 2020, he released an album called Music to be Murdered By. And indeed, this album is synced to the death of his mother. This death symbolism was extended earlier this year when one day before Trump was shot, The Death of Slim Shady was released. And this album cover shows Eminem in a body bag, right? So clear symbolism here. And the release of this record In fact, I did a video on this album back in 2020 after it came out. Relevant links to previous work involving Eminem are in the description below. Now, that album came out on January 17th of 2020. January 17th, or 117, is very similar to his birthday, October 17th, or 1017. They have the same digits, 117. Using capital letters, the name Eminem sums to 117. Capitals mixed, another ordinal method that mixes capitals in with smalls. Well, not only does Eminem have the 117, but so does the number 13. That's right, 13 equals 117 in the reverse order. Well, in standard gematria, 13 sums to 567. And on the date that this album came out, Eminem was exactly 567 months old. So clearly the number 13, very important to this rapper. Now, measuring from the release of that album in January of 2020 to the death of his mom was 254 weeks later. This number is found in the gematria of the word murder, which sums to 254 in the primes method that I mentioned earlier. His mom died of lung cancer, and check out how lung cancer has matching 399 gematria with the word murder. In fact, his mom's last name, Nelson, 79, 83, and 34. And those are the same numbers you find in murder in the same ciphers. So it does appear that this record was always pointing to the passing of his mom several years later. Again, it may seem crazy on the surface, but reality is far stranger than fiction, as we've come to learn. Now, the reason I did a video on this album after it came out is because the first single, or one of the singles from that record, was called Darkness, and the music video for that song showed Stephen Paddock, the Las Vegas shooter, essentially carrying out his massacre at the Route 91 Harvest Festival. And the name of the song, Darkness equals 91, just like the number of the festival where the shooting happened. The video even came out 91 days after Eminem's birthday. And no one expected this album to come out. It was a surprise, which is a word that also sums to 91. So I thought, wait a minute, there's probably a riddle connected to the Vegas shooting. Now, in my video yesterday, once again, on the drama in Korea, notice how YouTube conveniently shows us the path of the 2027 eclipse, which was a huge topic of that video. And the 2027 eclipse reaches its peak near the Egyptian city of Luxor. Well, the Las Vegas shooting happened across the street from the Luxor Hotel. So I thought, what if we measure from the Las Vegas shooting to the death of Eminem's mom? And notice how we get exactly 7 years and 9 weeks. 79, like the word murder. 79. His mom's name, Nelson. 79. I don't know. It comes together a little bit too well. However, what I did not expect when starting this decode is a big 9/11 riddle. So we've been talking about the number pi and the Pi Day eclipse. Back in 2001, a book called Life of Pi was published, which was later turned into a film. conveniently, Life of Pi was published on the exact same day as the 9/11 attacks in the United States. So whenever we see Pi rituals, it's quite common to also see 9/11 numerology. And indeed, that's the case here. When you write out September 11th, 2001, or 119, the digits in the date 9/11, they all sum to 194 in the alphabetic order. And think about 194 minutes on a clock. This is 3 hours and 14 minutes. Because 3 hours gives us 180 minutes with a remainder of 14. 3 hours and 14 minutes, 194. So there's this distinct connection between September 11th, 2001 and Pi. Well, on the date his mother died, Marshall Mathers was 19,040 days old. In Latin, his stage name Eminem equals 119. And would you believe he was born 9 months and 11 days after his mom? Well, after his mom's birthday, of course. The number 9/11 is the 156th prime number. Now, I don't have this in the post, but 156 is a huge eclipse number. Eclipses always occur 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases apart. The Hebrew word for eclipse sums to 156, right? Well, look at how old Eminem was on the 9/11 attacks. 10,556 days old, 1556. His mom's full name, Deborah Ray Nelson, equals 156 in the alphabetic order. She died a span of 8,484 days after the 9/11 attacks. Not only does Deborah Ray Nelson equal 84 with the S exception, but the name Mathers in the alphabetic order sums to 84. A couple more notes about the 9/11 code here. In regards to 194, in Satanic Gematria, the word lung gives us that 194, and it was lung cancer that was said to have caused her death. Also, when TMZ first broke this news, the morning after she died, notice the time here, 7:19 a.m. I guarantee you this is not an accident. 7:19. Eminem's record had 3 singles from this year. And notice how the last single, Somebody Save Me, came out on July 19th, or the date written 7/19. The 911th prime number has these same exact digits, 7109. So it does appear this is a strong mention. In fact, check this out. If you measure from 7/19, the release of Eminem's latest single, to the date his mom died, you even get 19 weeks and 4 days. So it makes these connections that much stronger. A quick note from yesterday's video. I also talked about the solar eclipse from the year 2035, because that eclipse passes over the Korean peninsula. And I thought it was interesting that 2035 plus 235 equals 2270. And 227 was really all the rage in yesterday's video. Another important number connected to pi, of course. And to prove that, you need to go no further than Life of Pi, where the main character survives 227 days. So again, my video from yesterday is linked below down in the description if you want to see more. Before I go, though, I do want to point out a couple of more alignments that potentially pointed to the date of his mom's death all along. Now, when 8 Mile came out back in 2002, this was on the date 11/8, which is a number that stood out to me right away because when Eminem was born, it was on a date with primary numerology of 118. In the Latin cipher, 118 is a big number of death. Death equals 118. So does the word homicide, also giving us that 118. And now his mom's dead of cancer. Cancer also with the 118. But back to this word death. Notice how in an ordinal, death gives us a 38. R.I.P., the phrase on a tombstone, 38. Killing is a 38 in reduction, and then murder is 38 in reverse reduction. Well, if you measure from the first Great American Total Solar Eclipse to the death of his mom, you get exactly 380 weeks. And 38, also the reduction value of murder, or I'm sorry, rapper. Sometimes I type a word and then say a different word. That'll happen when you're doing live. Anyway, so yeah, once again, check out the description below if you want to check out my video from yesterday, which talks about some of the same numbers. This video from 2020. Man, 2020 doesn't feel that long ago, but next month it'll be 5 years since I did this post. We're all getting pretty old, aren't we? Another note about this story that I wanted to point out, and I haven't talked a lot about F1 on this channel recently. I've done a couple YouTube posts and blog posts as well talking about some of the numbers. I did not pick the winner last week, so I had 3 races in a row where I correctly predicted the winner. However, last week I was incorrect. And, well, I guess I'll touch on this real quick here before I close this out, but the two drivers I picked to win this race were Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. And as both drivers ended the 33rd lap, they both got a tire puncture. And first they showed Lewis Hamilton driving around with sparks coming from his car. And then they cut to Carlos Sainz, who had the exact same problem on the exact same tire. So to me, this is proof that while, yes, I did pick up on a numerical riddle involving these two drivers, it actually pointed to their demise and not their win. And this is something that happens sometimes, right? You think you got the numbers sorted out, but then something completely different plays out. And it's just as connected as a win would be. It's a strange thing to explain to people who are new to this. But it was enough to trip me out, so I talked about this in a post. Max Verstappen ended up getting the win instead. And indeed, there were plenty of interesting numbers for Max as well. But I just thought it was interesting that, Eminem's mom dies. And the big story with Eminem this week is that he was originally going to cancel his concert at the F1 race in Abu Dhabi this weekend. But now the show is reportedly back on. I'm pretty sure Eminem has been performing at F1 races for a while. I think he even performed in the US a couple months ago as well. Anyway, Sorry, I'm just getting over a little cold here. So I might make a post later today showing how this story about Debbie Nelson is synced to the F1 race. And there are a couple interesting things. I mean, think about Charles Leclerc, for instance. When Debbie Nelson died, Charles Leclerc was 9,909 days old. And now Leclerc will be looking for his 9th win in Abu Dhabi. This is an upside down 666, which was obviously very connected to the Debbie Nelson story. Well, when you look up Charles Leclerc, he's got a birthday that's extremely close to Eminem. Leclerc born on October 16th, whereas Eminem was born on October 17th. So if you measure between their birthdays, it's a span of exactly 25 years. Which is funny because Leclerc won his first ever race on his teammate's 25th birthday. But the 250 stands out. 603 score and 6 in the standard method has this 2,500. And Leclerc, born on the 16th, he drives the number 16 car for Ferrari. Debbie Nelson, born on 1/6. Think about the Tower card of the tarot is the 16th card of the major arcana. And her death was also a 9/11 riddle. 9/11, the ultimate tower ritual, to put it bluntly. So, again, I'm not picking Leclerc, at least not right now, to win this race. But this just goes to show you how all of these things are super connected. And after the race, and maybe even before, I'll be able to do a decode that shows how this is all synced up. Now, before anyone goes, throwing all their money on Leclerc this weekend, understand that Ferrari is like 20-some points behind in the Constructors' Championship. So they could pull out a victory. It would be their first victory in 16 years, right? Perfect for this 16 that Leclerc derives. But what I want to point out to everybody is that Ferrari is, I think, by far the most popular team on the grid. So there's going to be a lot of people who are betting with their heart and putting money on Leclerc and Sainz to potentially win the race and the championship. But, as we learn, these sports leagues really know how to sap money from their viewers, so I'll just leave this there. This video could be another hour if I go and start decoding all of those drivers, but I'll spare you the pain for now. So with that, I'm signing off. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to y'all next time. See ya.